Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about this thing. So today let's talk about this derailleur, who it's for, the pros and cons, what I've liked about it over the last 3 years, and some things that I haven't, and if you should get one. We'll talk about it. So we'll do a quick overview about it. I actually am waiting for my battery to charge because it was green yesterday. So I'll talk about what the lights mean, but it was red this morning, and so that means you're about 20 to 25% left. So one of the cons with having a battery operated derailleur. All right, so this is the GX axis version of the derailleur. My original derailleur, which was the X01 axis, I purchased that about 3 years ago. I used that derailleur on 3 different bikes, and then I sold the last bike with it, so I had to buy another one. So when I was building up this wolf ridge, I decided, I don't need to go to the X01. I'll just save a little bit of money and go to the GX axis, which is basically the same thing, just doesn't have the aluminum cage there. So it comes with this battery cover, which it looked cool, but in actual use it doesn't really work that well because you have to remove it if you want to take the battery out. So I usually just leave it off. So the SRAM AXS Derailleur was released way back in 2019 actually, and I didn't get one right away. They only sold it with the whole kit, like the crank set and everything at the beginning, and it was a lot of money. Later they sold just the derailleur and the controller up here, so that's when I decided to purchase it. So if you haven't seen one of these or know what they're about, I'll explain it really quick. So in summary, the AXS wireless derailleur basically does away with any derailleur cable, and it solves the problem which 12 speeds work well whenever you have the right amount of tension to move that derailleur back and forth. But if it gets off a little bit, then you're going to have issues because there's just very little gap here, and so you don't have a lot of tolerance for lazy shifts or a cable that kind of stretches or moves. So SRAM did away with that and said, hey, let's do wireless, so no more cable. So normally on this bike you'd have a cable that goes here, goes in through here, out through there, in through here, out through here, and then it would connect over here. So instead you have a battery controller here that controls your derailleur down here, which is very cool and fun to mess around with. But yeah, you have wireless control and it's instantaneous. You don't have a delay. You click it and it moves, which is really cool. I think SRAM really perfected the game though, and so far I haven't seen any real contenders that have challenged their design. So yeah, so what I was talking about, whenever you go to turn it on, you can look at it in the app, but that little light there, if that's green, you're 25% or above, so maybe 30% to 100%. If it's red, you're like 10 to 25. If it's blinking red, that means you're like basically dead. So you either have an extra battery or you try to steal one. I tried to steal my wife's, which hers also needs to be charged. So they were all green, but overnight, as you know, batteries can sometimes change. So ours changed overnight and went to red. All right, so it's not charged yet. Usually takes about 60 minutes to fully charge, but it's gonna have to do for today. All right, so hopefully I have enough. Take out my wife's battery, throw mine in there, and shows green. All right, good. So you can check it in the app as well to see. They have updated the app recently. When it first came out, the app was not great. So now it says battery charged. Let's see if it says a percentage. All right, so I don't know the percentage, but it says it's green. So yay, I can go on a ride. All right, I stopped for a little bit. All right, let's talk about the pros and cons of the AXS derailleur. All right, first, let's talk about the pros of this guy. Let's talk about the things that I really like about the derailleur. And the first is just such accurate shifting. I will say that the original thumb shifter that comes with it, I don't care for personally. Some people don't mind it. My wife still has it on hers. I didn't like it. Seemed like I don't know. I like this version. You can get this upgrade for like 20 bucks, I think. But I like it better just being able to distinguish between, and you can program these. You can have this do up or down shift, whatever you like. Going back to the reliability, just while I was riding over here, I was just thinking, like, I can't remember the last time I adjusted one of these. SRAM does give you the ability to do slight micro adjustments in between each cog if you have to like tweak it just a tad. And I can't remember the last time that I did that. So it's just super reliable, super smooth. And yeah, I mean, if you're someone who just doesn't want to mess with their gears and just basically set it and forget it, the AXS derailleur is the most maintenance-free derailleur that I've ever used. So yeah, you just have to deal with that, the little chirps. So yeah, I think the only time that I've had to make any adjustments is changing like the wheel set sometimes on my bikes. And sometimes you have to adjust it just a tad. And you can take it on and off, you know, different bikes very easily, which is really nice without having to, you know, most bikes these days have internal cable routing. And so, which some bikes make it easier to route the cable. Other bikes though, it's a pain. And so not whenever you're setting up a bike, it makes it super easy just to install it, make a couple adjustments, and then you're good to go. So yeah, just to clarify, this is the older AXS derailleur. Now they have the transmission or T-type. So yeah, the new transmission derailleur does away with your limit screws, your B adjustment. It makes it even easier. We're not talking about that one today, we're talking about this one. So you can set it and mostly just forget it. Another pro, it has like a breakaway mechanism here. So if you do whack on something, it's designed to like disengage so that it kind of it allows some movement in here. I'm not gonna do it because I don't wanna mess it up. But supposedly it's fine if you whack into something, so that's pretty cool. The other thing I'll mention is because you're just tapping, I mean, when you're young, you may not care, but when you get older, like just the repeated motions of stuff can sometimes, especially for long periods of time, can, you know, cause a little bit of soreness in your thumb. And I kind of forget about this, and every now and then I'll ride like one of our rental bikes or a different bike. My fat bike actually isn't wireless, so I know it sounds silly, but pushing, you know, to go down in gears, like you forget how easy it is with AXS versus a normal derailleur. So anyway, if you want to save your thumbs, it's easier just to push instead of like actually pushing a cable. All right, so we talked about the pros. Now let's talk about some of the cons. With anything, you're gonna have cons. First, let's talk about the price. No, it's not cheap. I will mention too, so if you already have a bike that has a 12-speed cassette, so even if it's Shimano, you can upgrade to AXS if you want without like getting a new cassette, new chain. So like right now, for example, I'm running this E13 TRS 12-speed cassette, so it has only 46 tooth, so it's a smaller one. I don't really need it for around Houston, so I went with a lighter cassette because this is only like 330 grams, and I had it at my shop, so that's why I used it instead of a SRAM 10 like 52 tooth cassette. So yeah, even if you have a Shimano cassette 12 speed, you can make it work with AXS. 11 speed I haven't tried, but technically you probably could if you adjust the limit. Maybe someone out there can comment on that. All right, but going back to price. So yeah, it's expensive, about over $600 you get the derailleur and your control module. Around the holidays last year, there were a lot of sales, so you could find it for about $400 or so for a kit, which if you are on a budget but you really want it, maybe wait a little bit and see if it goes on sale. Or if you want it now, just take the plunge, buy the upgrade kit, or buy a bike that already has it, get one used, whatever. I'm hoping the price will come down. I've seen a few kind of copycats of the AXS system. Not really like that much less, so I don't know why you'd get a generic one over the real thing, just because it's going to work a lot better. You're going to have software support, you're going to have a company support as opposed to some generic brand out of Asia that you have no idea who to talk to if you ever have any issues or you need a part or something. All right, so another con is the battery. I know you're going to think, oh, it doesn't last long enough, because I kind of started the video with a dead battery or a battery on red. I wish they would have like a different color in between. Like maybe like a yellow color, so you could check, you know, and say, okay, I got, instead of just like green to red, you know. Obviously gave me anxiety because I didn't want to necessarily come on a ride and run out of power. But no, the battery life actually is really good. Sorry, I had to sit down for a sec. So SRAM estimates your battery life is around 25 hours with normal use. So yeah, obviously if you shift a lot or you're cold environments, really hot environments, that could change. What I found is, because it's so long and I don't ride this bike all the time, I tend to kind of forget I have a battery. So I'll just, you know, all right, go for a ride and get on it without like, oh, when's the last time I charged the battery? And I don't necessarily keep track of it. So yes, it's a good thing it lasts so long, but as long as you remember to occasionally check it and or just get in the habit of like charging it every few weeks. Oh yes, another thing I wanted to mention about the battery. This is motion activated, so you don't have to push a button to get it to start. You just kind of like move it and the derailleur will turn on. But if you go on like a long trip you want to make sure you take the battery out. I've heard stories of people forgetting it. Around town, I'd leave it in because I usually don't have to travel more than like 30 minutes to a trail. But if I go out of town, I make sure to take it out. Don't forget to bring it with you, because that would suck if you get there without a battery. Take it out, that way the system's not thinking it's on as you bump down the road. So don't forget that if you have access or want to get it. And there is a battery in this controller as well. SRAM says it lasts for about 2 years. So it should tell you in the app when you're getting low, but yeah, it's kind of one of those, you don't really have to worry about that, which is good. And I will mention as well, like this is waterproof, so you don't have to like take the battery out to wash it. Obviously you never want to like put a heavy degreaser or something on it. You just want it, soapy water, car wash soap. It's built to be weatherproof, which is nice. So one thing I do wish they would do, that instead of having to like put it on a special charger to charge this guy, I wish they had like a little USB-C port with like a BMS management on there, so you could just plug in a USB-C. That way you wouldn't have to like carry the charger's not big, but it's just one more thing to remember, that if you just had like a connector, you could just take a USB cable that you probably already have for your phone or your laptop or iPad, and then you wouldn't have to have a charger. So SRAM, hopefully in the future you'll make a battery that has a little USB-C connector. Replacement batteries run about $60. They have generic ones. I don't know if I'd recommend them. So another pro/con is in the app, you have firmware, which if you know software, you know that's the language that the software needs to communicate, to the device. So there are updates that come available. For the most part, it's fine, but I have had in the past a couple bikes. There was a messed up version a year or so ago that it would prevent certain shifting in one of the gears. It's kind of weird. And I had to install like a beta version of the update, and that actually fixed it. So sometimes they'll fix stuff, but also break some things. And so anyway, there is software that you have to update. It's really easy to update. It gives you instructions in the app, but periodically, just keep an eye on that. All right, the other con I wanted to mention is, and maybe they've changed it, but in the past, if you like smash your cage, they didn't have really any replacement parts for this derailleur, which kind of sucked. So you had to buy the whole thing if you had a bad day and whacked it. I know with the new T-Type, the transmission derailleur, they do have parts available. All right, so in summary, over the last 3 years, I would definitely recommend the SRAM AXS Derailleur system for anyone. You can get the GX, like I said, if you go to the higher end stuff, you just save a little bit of weight, but the GX has all the same stuff in it. It just doesn't have the lighter weight cage. So, and some of the little bits. For most people, I'd say the GX Axis is the way to go if you're gonna buy one. And a lot of new bikes are coming with the T-Type. So if you're looking for a new bike, you may be able to get one, and I would recommend it if you can afford it. So over 3 years, this thing has been awesome. Just being able to not mess with it as much. Before this, I had the X01, which actually I have on my fat bike now, and it works fine, but there is some maintenance that's still involved because of cables. It is nice to not have a battery, but at the same time, yeah, to constantly have to tweak it. And obviously I tweak bikes a lot, so I understand a little bit and I can do it faster. Those that don't, it can be frustrating to have 12 speeds and constantly have to be like adjusting them and stuff if you don't necessarily know what you're doing. If you're one of those people, the wireless is definitely a nice way to go. I mean, if you're a beginner and you have the budget, absolutely do it, just because you're not necessarily familiar with how to adjust your derailleur. If you're on a budget, yeah, maybe in the future SRAM it'll trickle down to their lower end derailleurs. I hope so. That would be awesome if like they just went completely wireless and said, all right, Shimano, boom, we're all wireless now. And it's an affordable price point. That would be sweet. Maybe that will happen in the future, but I don't know. They may just keep it as a premium product for now. If you're someone who's a hard rider and you bend derailleurs and hangers a lot, I don't know. If you just have a big budget, then maybe, but I probably would go to the less expensive, just like a GX or X01 derailleur instead of wireless, just because, yeah, you're breaking stuff. For now, I'm going to continue to use it on most bikes that I can and afford to put them on. But yeah, it's been, I'm glad that SRAM continues to kind of push the industry forward and try new things and experiment with stuff. So all right guys, well that's gonna pretty much end today's video. If you have any questions about the wireless stuff, leave a comment below. If you already have one, what's your experience been? How long have you had it? What do you like, dislike about it? Let me know in the comments. If you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content, or if you want to see more content like this. on longer term, you know, kind of reviews of some stuff, let me know. All right, guys, well, I'm gonna get back on the bike and keep riding, but hope you guys are doing well. We'll see you on the next video. Take care. Bye.